Governments always tell us the same thing. We're working for your financial freedom. The economy is growing, opportunities are rising, stability is coming. But wait a second, is that really true? When you look closer at history, you see a much darker picture. Because for centuries, governments have been playing the same game. Only the name changes, the goal, always the same. Move wealth upward, keep the people dependent. The oldest trick in the book, inflation. When governments run out of money, they face two options. Either be honest and say, we're raising taxes, or quietly reduce the value of money. Guess which one they pick? Exactly the quiet one, inflation. One of the first to discover this trick was ancient Rome. In the 3rd century, emperors kept minting coins to feed their armies, but the silver content dropped, replaced with cheap copper. They coated it with a thin silver layer and said, same coin, but the people noticed. Prices soared. Savings evaporated. Wages couldn't keep up. Romans watched their money melt away in their hands. The only difference today, it's not emperors doing it, it's central banks. The forced donations of the Middle Ages fast forward to the Middle Ages. In England, France and Spain, when kings ran out of money, guess what they did? They went to wealthy merchants and said, for your country, for your king, lend me money, but those loans weren't voluntary. Refuse and you'd lose your property, maybe even end up in prison. A kind of mandatory generosity. The king kept his war going and feasted in his palace. The merchants? They lost their capital, but it was wrapped in a nice slogan, patriotic duty. 17th century, the system itself becomes the scam. When the Bank of England was founded in 1694, its purpose was simple: war. The state needed money to fight France, so the wealthy lent money to the government, and in return they got interest. And where did that interest come from? From taxes? On salt, beer, cloth? Paid by the people. The rich lent to the state and earned interest. The public paid those interests through taxes. It looked like national finance. But it was really a wealth transfer. And guess what? That system still runs today. Modern tricks, deficits, debt, and bailouts today. Governments say budget deficit, investment, infrastructure. But where does most of that money go? Defense contracts. Big corporations. Banks. Then, to repay the debt, they turn back to the people, raise taxes, freeze wages, cut social programs. The public pays the debt. The wealthy collect the interest. And they call it development. The 2008 crisis. Private profit, public loss. Remember 2008. Banks were collapsing. Toxic mortgages everywhere. The system was falling apart. Then government said, we must protect the people, and announced trillions in bailout packages. Who got saved? The banks. Who paid for it? You, me, every taxpayer. Profits were privatized. Losses were socialized. And we clapped, thinking we'd saved the system. Retirement, the greatest magic trick for decades. Workers have paid into pension funds, believing one day this money will come back to me, but most of that money's already gone. There's no cash in the vault, just government IOUs. It's a generational Ponzi scheme, and when it starts to crumble, they call it reform, meaning smaller pensions or later retirement. The biggest weapon, perception. It always comes down to one thing: perception. Inflation, hatas, growth, forced loans, patriotism, government debt, investment, bailouts, stability, pension cuts, reform. They hide the truth behind pretty words. But behind the curtain, the same thing always happens. Wealth flows upward. Quantitative easing, the modern way to print money. After 2008 came quantitative easing. Central banks created trillions out of thin air, but that money never reached ordinary people. It went into stocks, bonds, real estate. Who benefited? Those who already owned assets. The rich got richer. The middle class? They looked at grocery prices and asked, why is everything so expensive? Answer: because money was printed, just not for you. Hidden taxes you pay without knowing. Sometimes governments tax openly. Other times they hide it. How? Sales taxes, fuel hikes, inflation, prices rise. Your paycheck doesn't, but no one calls it a tax, yet that's exactly what it is. Inflation reduces government debt by stealing your purchasing power. Complexity, the smokescreen thousands of pages of tax codes. Unclear terms, acronyms, funds, all designed for one thing, to keep people confused. In Rome, you could see the scam. The coins lost their shine. Today, it's buried in balance sheets and fiscal jargon. The more complex it gets, the quieter the public becomes. Why it matters? Because these tricks are still happening. Fast. Inflation eats your savings. Debt keeps growing. Bailouts are now routine, and while the system helps you, it quietly bleeds you dry. The result? Ordinary people work harder, earn less. The elites work less, earn more. What can you do? One, look beyond the headlines. When they say stimulus, ask, who profits? Two, when inflation rises, know it's not an accident. It's a policy choice. Three, build your wealth outside the system, in real assets that don't depend on paper money. And most importantly, remember, the system doesn't exist for you. It exists for itself. History may not repeat, but if you don't understand it, it will crush you again and again. Financial education is resistance. Economic history is a weapon. If you know the tricks, you can't be manipulated. If this gave you a new way to see things, subscribe. Because history is the strongest key to understanding today.